welcome back. And we're going to continue Passe Compose, this time with être. Okay, so like I said, most of the time your helping verb is going to be avoir. There's a finite number of ones that take être. There are the Mrs. Pierre de Vandertramp verbs, and of course all reflexive verbs take être. So if it had a se in front of it, it will also use être. Real quick, just if you care, I know I've explained this before, but maybe now that we have been exposed to more and more French, it might make more sense. The whole point of these verbs is they're ones that can't take a direct object. So like if I said, je suis allé au supermarché, I went to the store. To the store is a prepositional phrase, but it is not a direct object. It's not saying, a direct object answers the question who or what about the verb. Oops, I forgot that was my timer from the last video. Okay. See, I would not have made it. Okay. Anyway, in fact, I better set this one for this one because I hope that this won't take too long, but just in case. All right, so je suis allé au supermarché, as opposed to if I said something like j'ai lu le livre, I read the book. Who or what did I read? The book. Okay, so the avoir verbs take direct objects, and the être verbs are the ones that don't. Okay, which is why, for example, sometimes the Mrs. Pierre de Vandertramp verbs, you might see them with avoir because it just depends on how they're being used. Okay, so for example, elle est sortie avec Bob. She went out with Bob. With Bob is not a direct object. Bob by itself, like I see Bob, who or what do I see Bob? That would be a direct object, but with Bob is not. It does not answer the question who or what did she go out. With, yes, but not just who or what did she go out. So because there's no direct object, it's an être verb. If I said elle a sorti la poubelle, she took out the trash, who or what did she take out? The trash. So because there is a direct object here, it kind of changes the meaning of it, but it also makes it an avoir verb, which then in turn would mean there's no agreement on there either. Okay. So for example, je suis passée, and I'm a girl, so I'll put an extra E in there, par la boulangerie. So like I passed by the bakery, I swung by there. Je suis passée par la boulangerie. By the bakery is a prepositional phrase, not a direct object. But if I said like j'ai passé 3 jours en France, I spent 3 days in France. Who or what did I spend? 3 days. So see how it kind of changes the meaning. Passer here meant to like go by something, pass by it, as opposed to this meant to spend time. But this one has a direct object, so it's avoir with no agreement, and this one does not have a direct object, so it is être with agreement. Okay, either that helped as an explanation or it made things totally worse. It's not really important that you know that, but it might be to the point now where it's kind of making sense why I'm saying that. Why is Mrs. Pierre de Vandertramp the way that it is? Okay, so the ones that take être, this is Mrs. Pierre de Vandertramp. The things that make it different from avoir, obviously the helping verb is different, so we're using the present tense of être instead as the helping verb. So the je suis and the tu es, oh dear, see, I can't push that. I'm trying to multitask, it's not working. And the il or the elle est, and then the nous sommes, and the vous êtes, and the ils sont. So that's going to be your helping verb, the present tense of être. Your past participles we'll talk about just a minute. Those are going to have to make agreement with the subject. Okay, and I'm emphasizing that because later we'll talk about every once in a while there is agreement with avoir, but it's with the object. The être verbs agree with the subject. So if I want to say like I fell, je suis tombée, if I am a girl, then I will add another ending here. So it's agreeing with who is the I. It's agreeing with the subject. Okay. Later, not now, but later when these avoir verbs, when you see some endings on those, know that those are agreeing with the object. The être verbs here agree with the subject. Okay. So it's very important to me that you know Mrs. Pierre de Vandertramp that you know what the words are. This really should be something, apparently this is a thing that I've chosen to be very serious about, that you know it and that you can do it correctly. So I'm just going to take these all out now because I don't want to take out each thing. So it doesn't matter. This is just an acronym. So I know there's one M on there. It doesn't matter where you put it. I just like to start with monter. If you started with mourir, so be it. It doesn't matter. So that's a regular ER verb, so it would end in accented E. Okay, monter means to go up. And you can write down whatever you need to here. So the R, there's 4 R's. It doesn't matter where you put them. For some reason, I like to start with retourner. It's a regular ER verb. So again, retourner with that accented E. You'd put E's if they were girls, S's if they were plurals, ES's if they were plural girls. Okay. I like for the S and the P to go together here. Excuse me. So sortir, and that's IR, so IR becomes I. So S and P, I just think sortir, partir go together. We learned them together originally, so parti. Mrs. P.R. D. Vandertramp, I like to keep these 3 together. The V is venir. And that's a weird one. You'll have to remember that venir becomes venue. Just like we looked at this list of the weird ones, this is a weird one. You have to know that venir becomes venue. But if you can remember that, the D here is the devenir, so devenu, this is to come, so this is to become, and the revenu, so revenir is the verb, revenir, and that's revenu. Okay, so if you can remember this one, you should be able to get the other 2 as well. Okay, so to come, to become, to re-come, like to come back. Mrs. PRD Van, there's 2 A's. It doesn't matter where they go. I like to put aller here. And even though it's an irregular verb, it does actually have a regular past participle where the ER becomes accented E. But then you've got to come and to go right next to each other. Vanatra, and it's the verb to be born. That also has a weird one. You have to remember that nature becomes nay. Okay, you just have to know that nature becomes nay, just like you had to know these weird ones. Nature becomes nay. There's only 5 weird ones on the Vandertramp chart, and 3 of them are right there. Okay, Vander, the D is descendre, and it's the opposite of monter. So if monter is to go up, descendre is to go down. It's the only regular RE verb on this chart, and just like up here, RE becomes U. So descendre becomes descendu. Okay. I like to put this ER together. It doesn't matter where you put the R's, but I like entrer and rentrer together. And those are both regular ER verbs. Make sure that they end in RER when you spell them, okay? Because a lot of people try to end it with an E, but that would make it an RE verb, and it's an ER verb. So rentrer, like enter and re-enter. This is like re-entering your home. Like I left, but then je suis rentré à 10 heures. I returned, I came home at 10 o'clock. So Vandertramp, for some reason, everybody remembers that the T is tomber, to fall. So regular ER verb there. This last R, rester, another regular ER verb. It's the one that means to stay. Whereas the other 3 had something to do with like returning or coming back. This one's staying. This A can be arriver. Again, it doesn't matter if you would switch those 2 around, so you can arrive at a certain time. This M is mourir. Do check the spelling. I get a lot of weird spellings for this one. Mourir. It's the verb to die. We had to be born, the verb to die. And it's the 5th and final weird one. You just have to know that mourir becomes mort, M-O-R-T. More. And then that P is passe. Sometimes people leave that one off of there because, again, it could go either way. It's a regular ER verb. But the people who leave that off there use Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp as the acronym instead of Mrs. PRD Vandertramp. But, you know, he's got to pick one and go with it. And then all reflexive verbs take atra. Let's look at one of those. Okay. So, for example, if I picked, my favorite verb, se raser. So all reflexive verbs take être. So if I wanted to say I shaved in the past, I guess this is down here too. So if you want to move these notes down here, you can do that. So I want to say shaved in the past. So I would do a je me, okay, just like a tu, te, and an il, se, okay, and a nu, nu. Ooh, I don't know what that word was. So all reflexive verbs take être. We'll chant that just for a second. All reflexive verbs take être. So you've got to have the suis and the a and the a and the som, etc., etc., et and som. But when you got te and a together, you're going to contract that into te. And when you got se and a together, you're going to contract that into se. Okay. And then it's just like a regular, again, most of these are ER verbs. So your ER verb would have the accented E. Okay. So je me suis rasé, tu t'es rasé, I shaved, you shaved, he shaved, il s'est rasé. Okay. Do make a note on here, something that's weird, that we know this, but hopefully this rings a bell. So like je me suis rasé is I shaved. And because all reflexive verbs take être, you can add those extra E's and S's. So if I'm a girl and I want to say I shaved, it would be je me suis rasé like this, okay? However, remember we said the whole point of a Van der Tramp verb, of an être verb, is that it doesn't take a direct object. So if you put a direct object after it, for example, let's say I shave my legs, okay? Les jambes. By putting a body part on here, it cancels out any E's and S's you would have added. Okay, so I'm going to say that again and make a big note here. Okay, if there is a body part in the past, you do not use the E's and the S's. Okay, so like tu t'es rasé, you shaved, looks great. You're a girl and you shaved, looks great. Okay, you're a girl and you shaved your face, I don't know, le visage. So it doesn't matter what you're shaving, but because face is on here, there can be no E's. And if it were plural, there could be no S's either. Okay, so once again, the body parts or any direct objects, they just happen to generally be body parts. The body parts are going to cancel out the E's and the S's. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. I think that's all I needed to say about reflexive verbs and verbs that take être. So I'm going to pause this or stop this video. Okay, voila.